It's Wednesday, November 7th, and this is your Barbados Today Evening News Update. So glad you can join us. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Caribbean economies are stuck in a vicious cycle of high debt and low growth, and unless there's decisive action to tackle the problems, little will change. Deputy Division Chief in the Caribbean Division 1 of the IMF's Western Hemisphere Department, Dr. Arnold McIntyre, issued the caution last night as he addressed the 33rd Aldith Brown Memorial Lecture at the Grand Salle. He expressed concern that economic growth in Barbados and the rest of the region was lagging behind other small states and emerging economies.
An overall assessment will tell us that no single factor can be held responsible. Overall persistent macroeconomic imbalances, particularly high fiscal deficits, and structural impediments to growth are the root cause of our malaise. I choose to capture it by saying the Caribbean has been stuck in a vicious cycle of high debt and low growth. Structural factors deeply embedded in the region's economies are leading to weak growth, and high debt is reinforcing the vicious circle. High debt dampens growth, weak growth drives up debt.
While he admitted that there was no quick fix to the problem, Dr. McIntyre pointed to the need for fiscal reconstruction, reform of state enterprises, improved policies to tackle social issues, and better use of technology, among other things. He insisted that he did not have all the answers, but stressed that governments must reassess their financial position and exercise fiscal discipline.
But it's not only a matter of making a one-step adjustment to reach to a fiscal sustainability. And this is where the hard work is. We have to be able to sustain fiscal discipline. We are doing some work now on over 25 years looking at the periods of consolidation. And what we find is, even in the IMF program, periods in which we consolidate, achieve fiscal sustainability, and go back into fiscal excess. To come back to consolidate, achieve fiscal, to go back into fiscal excess. I am suggesting to you, we can no longer tolerate that.
Scores of displaced government workers went in search of jobs at Ross University, which is set to start operations in Barbados from January next year. Interviews were conducted at the Warrants Office complex from as early as 9 o'clock this morning. Acting Director of the Barbados Employment and Career Counseling Service, Yvette Walcott-Dennis, told Barbados Today that the Medical University held interviews in keeping with a promise to Prime Minister Mia Mottley that the institution would give displaced workers the opportunity to regain employment.
What we would have done then is to compile a list and organize it, and so we're facilitating that end of it. We have 5 persons from Ross here doing the interviews, and I think they're going very well. Initially they had said about 75, but we had around 90 workers that we'd entered, and some persons still turned up anyway. They'd heard from a friend or something, and we asked them, they accommodated, and so some of those persons got in as well. But understandably, you know, we can't have everybody come, we can't accommodate everybody. But I think it went pretty well. The Ross recruiters seemed impressed with some of the CVs and some of the persons that they interviewed. They will speak to us on that later.
The acting director said she's pleased that those displaced workers have the opportunity to be employed once again, and her department was happy to facilitate the process. To news from the Senate, the Caribbean Court of Justice today came in for some heavy town lashing from opposition Senator Caswell Franklin, who described it as being shoddy and bungling in its rulings. The outspoken trade unionist accused the regional court of interfering in Barbados' affairs and attempting to impose its own legislation. He said while he was originally in favor of the establishment of the CCJ, he had since changed his mind. Franklin made the comments during debate on the Offences Against the Person Amendment Bill 2018, which is seeking to repeal the mandatory death sentence for persons convicted of murder in Barbados.
We have a Caribbean Court of Justice that has made itself into a legislating court. It is starting to legislate for Barbados. And I am worried about that. As much as I don't like it, we have a legislature with 29 people on one side and the lower house, and of course we know how the Senate is configured. That is our job. They don't rule something unconstitutional because they don't like it. They can make suggestions that it should be changed. But to rule it is not unconstitutional. I can't say it is not unconstitutional because they have ruled it to be unconstitutional, and because they are the highest court in this land, then it is. But I would like to understand their reasoning. Because I am getting tired with them and their thing, you know.
Almost a dozen inmates who are currently on death row at Dodds Prison will have to be resentenced once the amendments to the Offences Against the Person Bill 2018 are made. The disclosure from Leader of Government Business in the Senate, Senator Dr. Jerome Walcott, as he spoke during the debate. He pointed out that the Caribbean Court of Justice, Barbados' highest court, has already ruled that it was unconstitutional.
Judges will no longer be bound, so to speak. They will be allowed some discretion to determine in any particular case whether the nature of that case or the circumstances of the offense indeed would have merited and warranted the imposition of a death penalty. As it stands now, they are more or less pigeonholed in terms of our laws. Obviously, the circumstances of murder and manslaughter differ. And I've heard recently of a case where someone was provoked into a fight, was attacked, used a knife, they grabbed the knife and resulted in the death of the person who had attacked them. And indeed, because of the evidence, this person is being charged for murder. And these circumstances need to be taken into account when deliberating in these matters and making decisions.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news, disappointed. That's how the Caribbean Court of Justice deems the outcome of yesterday's referenda in Antigua and Barbuda and Grenada. The two OECS countries voted to retain the British Privy Council as their final court of appeal. CCJ President Justice Adrian Saunders says the court respects the decisions of the two countries and it will nevertheless continue to improve justice in both St. John and St. George's. He added that the outcome pointed to a clear need for the regional court to intensify public education about the CCJ. In Antigua, former Attorney General Justice Justin Simon suggested the no vote was the wrong move, but he maintains that there should be no letting up on efforts to ensure the country becomes a full member of the CCJ.
I am disappointed. It reminds me of the disappointing performances of our West Indies cricket team. I believe we have lost the vision and commitment of our forebearers. But nevertheless, I do not think that we should throw up our hands in the air, those of us who voted yes, nor should we bury our head in the sand. I think this is a time for recommitment. And to that extent, I am disappointed in the Prime Minister's declaration that he would no longer pursue or continue with constitutional reform. I think all the more reason why we should engage ourselves in constitutional reform, education, and conferences, so that people will get educated and will understand the need for that change in our national pursuits, and for us to be a better place when next that issue comes up for decision.
And further afield, President Donald Trump on Wednesday forced out Attorney General Jeff Sessions a day after congressional elections and vowed to fight if the U.S. House of Representatives, a new Democratic majority, launches probes into his administration. We have a full report from Reuters Television.
U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions stepping down Wednesday at the request of the president. His resignation following a tumultuous tenure at the Justice Department that saw him transformed from one of Trump's staunchest early supporters into a punching bag for a president fuming over the Department of Justice's Russia probe. The president on Wednesday thanked Sessions for his service, saying his replacement will be nominated at a later date. Trump soured on Sessions quickly after the Attorney General announced he would recuse himself from a Justice Department probe into allegations the president's campaign coordinated with Russia to win the 2016 election. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein taking over those duties, eventually appointing Special Counsel Robert Mueller to investigate, a development Trump appeared to blame on Sessions.
The Attorney General made a terrible mistake when he did this and when he recused himself, or he should have certainly let us know if he was going to recuse himself, and we would have put a different Attorney General in.
The president repeatedly attacked the Alabama Republican on Twitter, calling him very weak, sharing news reports calling Sessions' recusal a betrayal of the president and saying the Attorney General should stop this rigged witch hunt right now. Trump's allies, such as South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, openly mused that the president would fire Sessions after the U.S. congressional elections.
Clearly, Attorney General Sessions doesn't have the competence of the president. After the election, I think there will be some serious discussions about a new Attorney General.
And with Sessions gone, the next AG will be able to more directly oversee and potentially terminate Mueller's investigation into Trump and Trump's associates.
And that's news. But for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good evening.